married, I could 10,000 new wave bands.
Oh yeah. Then I had a new guy on for
You're on live
84.
now, I think,
You're
Ron.
live.
It looks like we're on live. All right. Good. Finally. It's working this week.
Start early.
Yeah, last week it was, I don't know what it was going on, but Zoom would not go over to YouTube. Kept on hitting that button to go to YouTube, and it just after 10 times, I just said, what the hell. So luckily, my guest that day, Diane Potter, she was happy to be scheduled. So
She's nice.
all right, we're going to be talking about favorite albums from the year 1989. I think I'm going to let Chuck start it off.
Oh gosh. I was just doing my homework. So as we were talking pregame here, we all said we didn't have a ton this year, and I'm really poor. And I probably said this before. I was right in the middle of three little kids in this time period. So I didn't listen to much music, but the ones I did listen to in real time, a couple of them I will mention today. One of them, might as well get it done now, is the one that no one else will pick from this band if they had to pick something from their discography. And of course, that's Rush. That was the year they let Presto. And I see many ranking shows that it's usually towards the bottom of the ranking shows. But I did enjoy Rush Presto that year because there wasn't a whole lot else going on. And I think when I look at the album, like I was looking at just now, there's 6 songs on there that I think are pretty darn good. So, it's not the worst album ever. I don't think I could do Show Don't Tell, Chain Lightning, The Pass, War Paint, Presto, and Superconductor. I think those are all pretty good songs. And I'm gonna take the contrary.
Oh, that's Chuck frozen.
Oh, check that. Yeah, that one
What?
was, I don't know. Yeah. I think
I'm not frozen here.
the ones that
You're still
I guess
moving around.
I guess for Rush, the least favorite are that one and the one I think the one after Bold the Bones or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Did I
but
freeze though? Did you get my last part or not?
yeah, I think we got it all. You
I
just
thought you
said
said
it.
I froze. Okay.
Yeah. All right, Ian,
Okay.
you're up.
Okay, first on my list, Thinking Plague in This Life, which was the third of their releases from the first incarnation of the band. They were around from the early 80s, avant rock band from Colorado, led by Mike Johnson and Bob Drake. This was the last of their albums which Bob was on. They then took about a 10-year hiatus after this one. Mix of instruments on here. Woodwind, Mark Harris, who's always been in the band. Very happy to see him on there. Couple of particular favourites on here. Lycanthrope on there and Organism. And they also did a remastering of a couple of the tracks from their early albums and threw it on here. So Moon Songs and Possessed from earlier albums appear on here. But pretty much the start of a strong run for Thinking Plague that they went from there. So that's my first pick. Thinking Plague in This Life.
Yeah, I know a little bit about them. Not enough to.
Yeah, I know
I think
nothing.
I had one of their CDs, and again, I misplaced that one. And a friend of mine, he was, I forgot the name of it. In Extremis, is that the one?
Yes, In Extremis is the one after this, or 1-2 after this. That was in the second incarnation of the band in
Yeah.
the late 90s when they put out a couple of albums. They then disappeared again for about another 10 years until they brought out another couple of albums just relatively recently. If you think about the rock and opposition avant bands, and you discard the early bands who started the movement, this is one of the primary bands of what you would say was the second wave of avant rock going on, and one of the main American bands in the scene.
Yeah, and you guys were mentioning before the show that very few you got in 1989. this is one that I got in 1989, but on cassette, and it's the very first Dream
Ah.
Theater. Recently, the singer for this band, he passed away, and it would have been, if he stayed alive, it would have been nice, since it's a 35th anniversary, to do like a nice little tour, have him come out and sing a couple of the songs from there. And at that time, I was really into the heavy metal scene, and then I came across this one, and just the cover, and just by the cover alone, I just
You
bought.
like the cover?
Yeah, it was just kind of weird.
I think that's a dreadful cover, personally.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It piqued my curiosity as to whether this was what kind of music it was, because it really doesn't kind of say it. It kind of looks more like it could have been a pop album.
It looks more like a
Yeah.
soft cell album.
I was going to say
Yeah.
Psych Furs.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, this has, the lead off track, Fortune and Lies, which the original singer, Charlie, had a different sound than James. I mean, it is kind of almost on the same lines as the original singer from Fate's Warning, John Arch, has a different sound than Ray Alden. I mean, it's just, and obviously Dream Theater has gone on to big success with James LaBrie and everything. And this has a lot of great songs. I mean, I want to say this is in many ways kind of one of the more progressive albums. It's just it comes across more to me as more, prog album. I mean, it does at times when you listen to some of the songs, they do sound a little dated. You do know, oh, that's an 80s band, but then other times, like that instrumental Dixie Jam.
That's the best one.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's kind of like their version of YYZ,
Yeah.
in a way, I mean, not to be sacrilegious to anybody out there, but this is a great band. I mean, so that is my first choice.
I'm impressed you found him in real time. That's all.
I got him on cassette. I mean,
I'm just saying that's impressive. Most people always go back beyond the James LaBrie stuff. I mean, the only album, there's one before that. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. All right, my second one in real time that I actually listened to that year is Tears for Fears, and that's the Seeds of Love. And they get some love in the prog community too, with a lot of their songs, especially the later albums after these pop albums. I mean, there's some really great stuff on some of the later albums that, of course, aren't popular. But on this album, I'm just looking at it right now. Woman in Chains, great song to me. These are to me, of course. And of course, everybody knows Sowing the Seeds of Love and Advice for the Young at Heart. Those are the big songs off the album, and probably the standouts for me too on the album. There's some other good ones, but like I said, there wasn't a whole lot going on that year. Songs from the Big Chair was more, in the one before that, I'm trying to remember the name of it, was my favorite album before that one. But
Hurting.
What's that? The Hurting, yeah. Love.
Yeah.
That's my favorite album. But go ahead.
Have you noticed that they change up their style? They don't sound like the previous album.
Oh, I think those first two did songs in the Big Chair, and maybe, I don't know, but this one went more Beatlesque to me.
Yeah, and a little bit of rhythm and blues and some blues in there.
Yeah, and then they went totally, you get what is it, the something in the King, what's it called? I should have looked this stuff up. The ones that came later, and there's some really proggy songs on some of those. It's just really good. And those are some of my favorites now. I like it better than this album, actually. But for this year, this is one of the top albums. So
good.
That's all I got.
My second one, Cardiacs.
I knew that one was coming.
On Land and in the Sea. Cardiacs, London-based, proggy, punky band. Pretty much a cult following. If you're a fan, you're a fan. If you're not, you pretty much hate them. This is one of their top 3 albums, probably, in terms of Sing to God and Little Man and this one are probably the ones people reach to the most in their catalogue. Got the classic lineup of the band in this particular lineup. My particular favourites on here, the Duck and Roger the Horse, Mare's Nest, Buds and Spawn, but it's pretty chock full of typical Cardiacs, frenetic, bouncy, all over the place time signatures. The Tim's vocals are sometimes a little difficult for some people, but it's right for the music. So yeah.
Their stuff, isn't it hard to get now? Because it's all
no, they it was for a long time very hard to get hold of, but they've opened up a digital store from their own company who run all of this stuff. The Alphabet Business Concern is their own company, which basically runs all of that. And if you go onto that website, you can pretty much get everything that they've released. So it's all come back in to stock. But yeah, absolutely. Go and look at the Alphabet Business Concern and check out that everything is there. I buy T-shirts from there, all of the materials from there.
Well, my other one that I bought on cassette when it came out, Fate's Warning, Perfect Symmetry. This was their second album with Ray Alder, and it was kind of going a little away from that 80s sound. Kind of sounds a little more like what they were doing in the 90s. And I honestly, out of all the prog metal bands, this is my favorite one. I mean, I like this particular one. It has the demos in the second disc, and the last one is a DVD of all their videos that they put out for this one. It's kind of, I mean, it has live stuff on there, all different stuff for on the DVD, special edition. And it's kind of a thick one. It's almost like a double, like those old double jewel cases. It's about that size. This has a lot of good songs. Part of the Machine, Through Different Eyes, and then their ballad. Nothing Left to Say, and Chasing Time's a great one. At Fate's Hands is an excellent one. If you've been following Fate's Warning since Ray joined in, this one it's a departure from their 80s stuff, even though it was in '89. Again, it's one of my favorites. One of the ones I bought on cassette because I was really into the metal scene, and they were on Metal Blade Records, and I was like going, oh, cool, they're on Metal Blade Records. I'll catch it. I gotta take a dive in this band. That's my second choice.
That's another one I'd have to say I went back in time for. So good job, Ron. My third one in real time would be The Cure and Disintegration, of course, in 1989. One that I was actually listening to, and of course, I'd always liked them up to that point. I guess I first came across them, I think, with Japanese Whisper, which had Love Cats and Let's Go to Bed, a lot of those songs. But then I kind of just followed them all the way up. And then the album right before this was Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. And it was like, yeah, it was a great album, but it was just happy for Robert Smith. It was like, what's up with that, So he went back to his old style here, which was very dark and gothic. And I kind of like that style. So it was great. I mean, the three big songs on four, I guess, the Lullaby, Fascination Street, Love Song, and Pictures of You. And that's pretty much the four I would play a lot more than the others. But I was listening to it again today, and overall, it's a really good album. So that would be my number three. And so far, I've stayed with the ones that I heard when they came out.
Very good. You're ahead of me. I've got nothing that came out when I knew it. My third one is going to be Birdsong of the Mesozoic, Fault Line. They're a avant-garde instrumental rock jazz band heavily focused on keyboards and saxophones. This was their second album. They're a pretty consistent band. Most of their stuff is all in the same sort of area of saxophone, instrumental rock with a bit of edge to it. Bit of jazz sneaks in there. So not much to say about it other than it's if you're into instrumental rock with a bit of edge, good place to start with these guys. Fault Lines, Birdsong of the Mesozoic.
Okay.
Yeah, I know when I was working at the record store, the manager, he played one of their albums, but I don't remember which one it was. I think it may be a later one because I was working there.
They've got about 8 albums out over the course, 8 or 9 albums out of the course of their career. Started out in '84. I think they were still going till relatively recently. I saw them live in Boston about 10 years ago. I haven't heard much of them since then.
My next one that I didn't get in real time, I got it a few years later. It's Marillion Season's End. I didn't know anything after, Clutching at Straws. I didn't hear anything about what was going on with the band, and then all of a sudden, like after what is it, Holidays in Eden came out, I was like, wait a second, it's a new singer, and then what a friend of mine said, yeah, they got another one. That's not the first one. I go, oh, okay. So, I mean, it's got great songs. I mean, King of Sunset Town. The obvious hits were Easter and Hooks in You. And, but then I like one of my favorite songs off there is The Space. I'm sure Chuck likes that one too.
Oh, that's really good.
And this was their 1997 remaster where it had a second disc and it has like a 12-inch version of The Uninvited Guest and some B-sides, The Bell in the Sea and The Release. And it was really, I know they have a new one from 2023 where it's a big box that I think probably has 3 or 4 discs on it. And I heard the remaster on Spotify and it sounds amazing, but I like the way this one sounds, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get it. But if I don't get it now, it's going to go out of print like Misplaced Childhood and Clutching at Straws. I can't find those, at least for a decent price.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Well, that was going to be one of mine because I really can't find 5 if I don't use that one, Ron. So I'll just piggyback on you and say that's one of my favorites going back in time, not just a couple of years. And I think I've told this on my show, which is Game of Prague, and Ian does his show on Mondays. But I've told the story many times that I found prog rock again in 2014. I don't think I said it on this show. I was listening to some political show for some reason. Oh, because they had a guy on named Brad Berzer came on, and they brought him on just to talk about this thing going on called prog rock, And so, but his main emphasis of that show was Marillion and Big Big Train. So that's the first 2 bands that I really heard and I go, this is really good. And I go, oh, there's stuff going on again, Well, it had been for quite a while probably, but not a ton like there is now, more and more each year. But anyways, that's how I found Marillion. So that's the year that I went back and I mean, they just didn't play him in the States. I don't, Ron probably found him, but if you didn't look for them, they weren't being played on the radio other than Kaylee, So
I think they had a music video for Uninvited Guests. I think they did.
I watched MTV. I never saw it.
Kind of like an Alice in Wonderland kind of feel to it, if I remember.
Yeah, and I agree with all. You look at the song list here. I mean, there's nothing I'm going to skip on it. And of course, everyone knows Easter, and probably most people are tired of it by the time I heard it. So, because that's what I hear now. Everybody's tired of it, but that is just a great song and a great hooks in that. But yeah, Hooks in You, great song. Just looking at them. Anyways, I had to use that one to get to 5 today, so there's my 4th one.
All right.
Okay, my 4th one is going to be The Work, Rubber Cage. Probably one of the more obscure ones I've got on my list today. This is a post-punk industrial noise band that was started after Henry Cow by Tim Hodgkinson, the horn and keyboard player from Henry Cow. So it's a 4-piece sampling noise industrial. It's pretty dark, pretty edgy. Good stuff here if you're into the post-punk noise scene. They released, I think, 3 albums in their career. This is the middle one of the 3. And they put their first one in something like 1983.
Sure.
Got to get you to your events.
Oh, I'm just gotta go golf, but I'm good.
Yeah. Well, my next one, I didn't get this one in real time. I think I got it like a few years later when I was working at the record store, and it's Pixies. Oh, geez.
Whoop! Wow.
Oh, that's clear.
Yeah.
You see right through it.
Pixies Doolittle. Yeah.
That's a good album.
Yeah.
Don't know it.
I mean, it's just. I guess you consider them what, post-punk?
Yeah, alt rock.
Alt rock. I mean,
yeah.
It was just
it's just a good rock album. They're a rock band.
Yeah, it was just kind of aggressive, but not like overly aggressive.
Yeah.
You know? And it's got such great songs. You know, Monkey's Gone to Heaven, and that one, Here Comes Your Man, which is on so many different commercials and movies. You know, it's like kind of I don't mind seeing these songs in movies, but when it's on a commercial for some household product, you know, it's like it just doesn't work for me. But this one, if you like that edgy,
yeah, they're an edgy rock band. They're good.
And the one before was good too.
Yeah, I've got those are the 2 I've got. The one before that one and Doolittle are the 2 I have.
Yeah. This is a real good one if you like that kind of, you know, sound, you know, the alt rock sound.
Right.
All right.
Well, since I was having trouble finding 5, I will say these. I'll just do like 3 that I can mention a song off of, you know, be real quick because I really don't have a full album recommendation for number 5. But I always been a big Neil Young fan, and that year he had Freedom.
Freedom's a cracking album. That nearly made my list.
Okay, and you know what? It's for the 80s and post 70s. It's probably the best one, almost. You know, so I have to agree with you, Ian. I just kind of got disenchanted because of a lot of his 80s up to that point, so I didn't really give it. I mean, it was in real time for me, so I didn't really give me probably as much a chance because I don't know if you remember some of the other stuff previous to that, but he had a really.
No,
bad
I wasn't
80s.
really into the stuff before that one, but that one grabbed me.
Yeah, the 70s was great, and then the 80s he just started experimenting all these different jazz or bebop, that one album, and all kinds of stuff. But anyways, this was his return to form. So yes, we got to mention it. Another one was Anderson, Wakeman, and Howe. I totally zoned that. You know, I was into Yes all the way through past 90210. You know, whatever the Trevor Rabin albums after that, those 2, and then I kind of lost it after that. Didn't even know that there was an Anderson, Wakeman, and Howe until later, you know, but that's one of the better albums I think that they did. That was not a Yes type. Well, that's not hard to say, is it? But I mean, you know, it was better than a lot of the Yes albums. That's what I'm trying to say. And it has Brother of Mine, which is a song that I just instantly liked a lot, you know. So there's second. And the third one would be Stone Roses. And I played that a lot back then, but like I was saying pre-show, I haven't listened to it recently, and of course, just other than the one huge song that we played over and over back in the day, and I can't really say too much more about it. So, you know, I'm going to leave that for number 5, like you know, three of them.
Very good.
Yeah.
I don't have a physical copy of my number 5, but there might be one that Chuck actually likes. Osric Tentacles,
I saw it
Pungent,
on
Fulgent.
It's going back again, but it's good.
Yeah, they were UK space psych band. They're one of those bands where they get the reputation that every album sounds exactly the same, but what they do, and it sounds very good. So it's It's grooving, spacey, instrumental music. This was the first one when they actually had a record deal. They'd been pretty much selling all of their material on cassette out of the back of a tour van up until this point. This was the first one that they had come out with more physical media. It actually came out on vinyl right when compact discs were making the big scene. So it was a bit of an oddball there, but it started a broader knowledge of the band in that scene around then. So from then on, their next run of albums were all consistently strong. Erpland, the album after this one, is probably my favorite of theirs.
Yeah. Right, Ron, before you go, I just want to say I was having an old man memory fart there. I Want to Be Adored. That's the song, the big song from Stone Roses.
Oh,
I should have said this actual song name. Okay, that's it.
and my last of the five is Queen, The Miracle. Oh, we got another. I thought it was Queen, but
Never heard that one.
this one has I Want It All and
Oh, right.
Was It All Worth It and Breakthrough. I mean, it's a good album. This is one of the very few ones back in the day when I had a record player. I had it on vinyl, and then I got it on cassette to, because you couldn't really take vinyl with you, so had it on cassette to go with me wherever I went. And I think I used the cassette more than the vinyl, because take it outside and put it in the boombox and listen to it. And of their 80s stuff, this is my favorite out of the 80s stuff.
That's probably true.
Would they kind of tied with The Game, but after they did that soundtrack for Flash Gordon, they kind of went downhill personally because they started experimenting way out into left field, with that Hot Space.
Oh,
that had one or two good songs off of it.
No.
And the Works was coming back to this,
Right. Yeah. Hot Space has no good songs.
This one.
It's a dreadful cover on that one, Ron. It's another bad cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, it's really trippy. And they had the 12-inch single. I think it had I think they had an etched copy where they had someone etched their whole faces off like that. It was just.
Well, the best thing Queen did, I think, after the 80s, Ron, was in the 90s. Innuendo. Yeah. I think it was a lot better than
that was their best one since the 70s, early 70s.
I agree.
So I got three runners up.
Yep.
Chuck's talked about one.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
Got that one. I love that one. This was not one. I did not get this in real time. I got it maybe a few years later, after that Union album. And then someone told me, you might want to check this one out. They told me they like this one better than Union. Then the next one was the second one for IQ with the new singer Paul Manel. Are You Sitting Comfortably? And it has that one Nostalgia, Falling Apart at the Seams. I mean, I believe this was produced by Terry Date. So it had a more modern sound compared to the previous stuff. I guess they were trying to break them through because they were on Polydor, so they were trying to get them into the mainstream, but it didn't work. And then Chuck had this one, Choose Yours.
Yep.
This came out with a big deluxe one. I want to get it, but it's like close to around between $40 and $60. I like the music. I'm not sure if I want to invest on, unless they have some really cool extras. But those were runner-ups in case.
I've got two runners up for you, Ron.
All right.
Which I think I actually bought real time back in '89. First of those, John Lee Hooker, The Healer.
I remember that one.
it was a pretty big deal when John Lee Hooker pretty much came back into the scene. It was one of his comeback albums, I think, with Mr. Lucky was the other one. So he was something like 73 when this came out. It's got an all-star guest cast on it. Carlos Santana's on there, Bonnie Raitt, Robert Cray, Canned Heat, Los Lobos are all guesting on here. It's a pretty good, solid blues album. It's John Lee Hooker. The other one I have is Andy Shepherd, Introductions in the Dark. He's a pretty straightforward jazz saxophonist from the UK, played with Carla Blaze Trio, played with Steve Swallow, been around all over the place. And it was his, I think, second album he released on his solo career when he was a young jazz guy in the UK.
I know I already did mine, but just on piggyback on you, Ron, on the IQ, I obviously saw them because they're one of my favorite bands, and I just couldn't go with, that album. I guess for me, it was like The Wake was so damn good in '85. And to me, that was just like a huge step backwards. And I think that's just why I had such a hard time picking that one. And then after that, I was good to go again, when they hit the '90s. But that, I don't know. To me, I don't know if you feel that way or not. The Wake was just steps above it. But I don't know.
Well, the first two albums, had obviously Peter Nichols on it. And then they had Nomzamo and this one with Paul Manel. And while Paul kind of sounded a little bit like Peter, but
oh yeah,
I kind of put them in the Peter Gabriel Genesis thing, with Phil Collins, where
they sound a lot.
Yeah, and now that one particular one, it does have a little more radio friendly stuff. That straight on pop kind of stuff.
Maybe.
They were really trying to get them into the mainstream, and then I don't even know what the backstory on that. I did interview Paul a few years back, and he said they had enough material to do a second one, but just didn't go. And then Peter came back in '93. I mean, actually, he came back in '91. It was doing a lot of shows, and then they released Ever. That's basically where I came in, because I saw them in Los Angeles.
I think you nailed it, though. I think it's the poppy, trying at the poppier stuff.
Yeah,
that's probably why I didn't like it as much.
It's kind of almost on the same way as Holidays in the. That was kind of a little more on the
I know that one I like, though.
I like it, but it's more on that same lines where it's more they were trying to.
Yeah, I think Merlin did it better.
The mainstream thing, but
yeah. Well, anyways, I think we covered everything in '89.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
It's worth mentioning anyway.
So the next one's going to be on the first Saturday of May, and we're going to go to 1994.
Still tough.
I think for me personally, that's when I started buying a lot of stuff in real time.
No, I'm still with kids.
Yeah, I was still with the kids there, the same me here. I don't think I had much in that window.
But we can find 5, I'm sure, if I have time.
I'm sure I can find 5. Yes.
Ian snuck in some CDs while the wife wasn't looking.
No, it will all be stuff like this, which I bought 10 years after the event. It will always be like that. Yeah.
I like to think if there was 10 of us on the show today, that we probably still had the same core of albums. I don't think there's a lot more expansion going on.
Right.
Could be wrong.
Hopefully, I'm thinking I'm gonna have my friend that was on the 1984 on, Marcel Pastor. He has a channel, Live Prog, and he says, I don't know anything about 1989. Says I wasn't really listening to music at that time. But he says 94. He says I think I can do that one. So
cool.
hopefully I'll get him back, because he's very insightful. If you've ever watched his YouTube channel, Live Prog, so he's got some good stuff and on he has older videos where he actually interviewed a lot of bands whenever they came around into Holland. So that's a good channel to check out. I would
Okay.
recommend that.
All right.
All right. Well,
Very good.
thank you guys.
Short and
I
concise.
appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Good to see you,
Appreciate it.
Ron.
All right,
Talk to
take
you
it
Bye,
later.
Ron.
easy, guys.
Thank you guys. See you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like I said, tune in next week. Well, actually, next week I'm going to be off because it's my girlfriend's birthday. So I told her I wasn't going to do anything. But then we'll be back on the 20th, and I'm going to be talking with Big Train.